Fist of Legend is a 1994 kung fu masterpiece starring martial arts mega legend Jet Li, directed by the equally legendary Yuen Woo-ping, and is frequently mentioned as a high point in both their careers, which, if you're familiar with either man's oeuvre, you'll know is a hell of a bar to set. Good thing it's one that the movie clears quite handily. Look, I'm not even going to pretend there's any suspense here. This is Hall of Fame stuff, prime cut, Wagyu beef fisticuffs, bought to you by the letter P, as in the peak the director, choreography, and actors are all working at. We tend to cover schlock classics or cult gems on this channel, and don't get me wrong, I love me a good chopsake disaster masterpiece, and many of those movies actually do have things about them that are objectively rad, even if they are sometimes more ironically enjoyable than, you know. Today we aren't covering one of those, though. Today, there are no excuses, no platitudes, no sort of ironic side talk. No, today is a bona fide mega classic, all killer, no filler, and absolutely essential viewing for anyone who wants high execution, high quality, high octane martial arts action. Now that we're all lubed up, let's get to the good stuff. Chen Zhen is studying abroad in Japan and seems to be doing pretty well for himself. He's enrolled at Kyoto University, has a cute Japanese sort of girlfriend in Mitsuko, played by Shinobu Nakayama, and all of this without a single roving band of Japanese dojo toughs to menace him in sight. Oh no. Shinobu scolds the leader of the thugs for their bullying ways, necessitating Chen to step in and just start rearranging the ever-loving shit out of their arms, just making absolute breadsticks out of them. This little mini tussle is technically our first fight of the movie, and even clocking in at half a minute, we already get a sniff, a taste of the speed and technique that is going to define the confrontations in the movie. I mean, seriously, look at this nonsense. That jaw shit is a new frontier of disrespect. Anyway, after Chen finishes handing out chiropractic adjustments, the student's master shows up and, ooh, it's him. Yep, finally making his return to the channel after almost a year. It's Yasuaki Kurata, ladies and gentlemen. The man, the myth, the dragon himself, last seen on the channel in his era-defining role as Shiranui Ryuma in the tragically underloved 70s martial arts TV classic Tatakae Dragon, which I reviewed almost a year ago and is still probably my favorite video of that first batch I made. Hell, it's the only video on this godforsaken channel that's had any small semblance of exposure. If you haven't seen the video, maybe give it a watch. The show is amazing and great fun to talk about. And the video itself is probably my favorite of that early batch of vids I put up on the channel, even if my narration sometimes sounds like someone has a gun to my head in this. Incidentally, if you like that level of uncomfortable craft in your YouTube videos, feel free to subscribe for, more of that. So yeah, we have the great Yasuaki Kurata playing Fumio Funakoshi, Mitsuko's uncle and the headmaster of the Black Dragon Karate School, and a much more even-tempered and tolerant sort than his students, even expressing condolences for the death of Chen's master, Huo Yuanjia, who recently perished following a duel with a Japanese karateka, which is as much of a surprise to Chen as it is to us, and so he hops the first plane back to Shanghai. Returning to the Jingwu school where he was raised and trained, Chen arrives just in time to see the deceased master's son, Huo Ting-en, take on a visiting master who for some reason figured a wake was the perfect time for a duel. Ting-en is played by Chin Siu-ho, another really top-tier screen fighter of this time who just never popped the way he probably deserved to, at least in my opinion. Incidentally, this isn't Chin Siu-ho's first time working with either Lee or Woo-ping. Just the year before this, they made Tai Chi Master together, a significantly more bombastic kung fu movie than this one, which nonetheless is actually also pretty damn awesome and enjoyable. Actually, just remembered, this isn't Chin Siu-ho's first time on this channel. He actually played Quick Kid in The Beheaded 1000, the absolute whackfest of a wuxia ghost story action movie that I talked about during last year's Halloween. If you want to go see the video, it's also on this channel. Just maybe take a nap first, because it's a lot. Ting En makes short work of the visiting master before greeting Chen and inviting him in to pay his respects, even allowing him to dress in the family mourning garb over the protests of Uncle Nong, played by veteran actor Paul Chun, who, fun fact, happens to be the older brother of Golden Age Kung Fu legend David Chiang, so that's neat. Respects paid, he immediately sets out to confront the Japanese on their own turf. Arriving at the dojo, Chen demands to see Ryuichi Akutagawa, the man who defeated Master. Luckily, the students at the dojo are completely reasonable and friendly, and agree immediately to call him over, and of course they aren't. They all decide to gang up on him for his disrespect, leading us into the first true fight scene of the movie. God damn, just look at him go. I don't know how familiar any of y'all watching this are with Jet Li's history, you know, the wushu tournaments that he was winning when he was a goddamn fetus, but it all shows, all the talent is here on screen. He's fast as hell, practically a blur. His technicals are honed to an eyeball-slicing edge. I don't want to shortchange the choreographer either. Yuen Wo-ping, of course, has been doing this for decades, hitting out banger after banger after banger since the 70s, and after this movie, of course. And yeah, it shows here. He knows how to position the camera in just such a way that all the action stays legible, like you could see the hits and the connections and the tumbles and everything, but he also knows how to sort of tighten things up and get you really in there so you can enjoy the visceral edge when they have characters rallying and fighting directly. I mean, there's a reason that he's one of the most famous choreographers on both sides of the ocean. The students sufficiently reasoned with, Chen gets his match pitting his master's traditional style against Akutagawa and his distractingly large hands. Seriously, dude looks like he could palm a watermelon. Anyway, this fight is a little less one-sided, Akutagawa being noticeably more skilled than the rank-and-file acolytes, still doesn't stop him from getting foot-punched and grandma'd around the arena to his increasing ire. After managing to close on him and counter him with ease several times in a row, Chen concludes that with his skill level, there's absolutely no way in hell Akutagawa managed to beat the master. At least, not in a fair fight. On his way out of the arena, he runs into General Go Fujita, who all but ignores them on his way into the building, save for some light, threatening, and contemptuous glares. The general is played by Billy Chow, a former kickboxing champion whose imposing frame and sharp eyes make him practically lab-grown for kung fu villain greatness. Later that night, Chen exhumes his master's corpse, a big filial no-no if there ever was one. Despite Uncle Nong's vehement objections and Ting En's confusion, he persists in getting an autopsy done, warning that if they want to stop him, they'll have to kill him. Good thing he did too, because after giving Master's liver a little dip in his science juice, the accompanying doctor confirms that, yes, the Master was definitely poisoned. I guess this is as good a time as any to mention that while Chen Zhen himself is purely fictional, made up for movies, his master, Huo Yanjia, whose name I probably just butchered for like the third time in this video, was actually a very, very real person. This is not the appropriate time or place to get into his life story in any great detail, but if you actually want to see a very loose adaptation of his life and his death, about a decade after this very movie, Jet Li starred in Fearless, which is that exact story. It's got some problems, especially pacing-wise, but overall it's still really good. Back at the dojo, the revelation that the only place Master could have been poisoned was in his own home starts to make things a little tense, notably with Uncle Gen, the longtime cook for the Huo family, who seems to be bearing the brunt of the suspicion. Don't worry, nothing a good training montage can't fix. We also see some of the students developing a sort of hero worship of Chen and looking to him for training, which I'm sure won't have any consequences down the line. Ting En, on the other hand, seeks out a somewhat more prosaic form of stress relief, presumably at a local house of ill repute. There does seem to be legitimate feelings between the two, so that's nice. Even if the girl is somewhat annoyed that they still need to keep their relationship a secret, even now that Ting En is essentially the headmaster of the school. Back at the Japanese homestead, a drunken Akutagawa confronts the general, having heard through the grapevine about the poisoning and outrage that he was made to partake in such a dishonorable charade. Unfortunately, Akutagawa gets a little forceful with his objections, and Fujita decides to discipline him for his disobedience. And in one fell swoop, we're shown exactly what our villain is. An ultranationalist monster who will murder, deceive, and manipulate without remorse to destroy his enemies and further the cause of the Empire, with not even the slightest concern for the morality of his actions. Insert obvious joke comparing him to the political party of your choice right here. The next morning, a mob of Black Dragon students rocking katanas descend on the school, having been fooled by General Shitheel into thinking Chen Zhen had murdered poor Akutagawa, and demanding he be handed over. While de-escalation would have probably been the wiser choice here, Ting En just can't help but antagonize the angry blade-wielding youths, and an all-out brawl breaks out. Boy, what a chaotic little fight this is. Cramming all the students from both sides into one courtyard makes for an extremely crowded arena. Luckily, the outfits are distinct enough that telling who's who is fairly easy, even in the melee. Both sides give as good as they get, and it's actually kind of interesting to see the different weapon styles pitted directly against each other. Hell, even the lady caretakers start to throw down. It's also an excuse for Chin Siu-ho to cut loose a bit, moving between multiple combat styles throughout the fight and looking great while doing it. Luckily, one of the caretakers that had slipped away at the beginning has brought police back with her, particularly this sympathetic local inspector played by Yuan Chung-yan, younger brother of director Wu Ping and a prolific actor and fight choreographer in his own right. Chen Zhen chooses this exact moment to show back up, and after calming down the students, the inspector takes him away for questioning. Unable to rustle up a good alibi at the subsequent trial, it looks like Chen Zhen is going to take the fall when Mitsuko suddenly shows up. Yeah, remember her? Well, get ready, because she's here to save the day by lying under oath and saying her and Chen were together all night, performing the old biblical scratch and sniff until the early morn. A testimony that earns jeers and laughter from the Japanese side of the gallery and looks of horror and revulsion from his countrymen. The ending of this scene and the reunion of the lovers is spectacularly awkward. Chen has that same look that you get when you have to look happy or excited to see someone when all you want to do is piss and vomit and cry. And all that's before Mitsuko says this part, which kind of recontextualizes everything she just did from, like, was it an act of true love and trust, or is it just the most effective relationship trap ever done in the history of mankind? What a scene. Wouldn't change a single thing. Returning to the school with Mitsuko in tow, things quickly turn toxic when Uncle Nong, his schoolmates, and even the staff all begin insulting and dismissing Mitsuko, telling Chen he shouldn't be involved with a Japanese woman and writing her off as some disposable floozy he was having a fling with. It's actually a little unsettling seeing characters who have been unambiguously the good guys casually talking like this, and look, this is not the appropriate place to wade into the acid bath of China and Japan's wartime history, but for the purposes of this situation, Chen argues, reasonably, that he can't in good conscience just kick Mitsuko to the curb after how much she sacrificed to save him. Although deeply upset, Chen agrees to leave with Mitsuko to spare the school any discord. Unfortunately, the students start arguing anyway, and Ting En, who has been nursing some resentment over Chen's increasing popularity with the trainees, decides that the two of them must have a duel to determine the headmaster of the school, something that Chen emphatically does not want to do, but too late, the shirt's been unbuttoned. Jin Soo-ho and Jet Li are in rare form, getting across the characters' personalities both in the actual fighting and in the pauses between swings. Ting En's style is flashy and aggressive, just blazing and jumping and spinning, and he is undeniably talented, even putting Chen on the back foot at first, though Chen's refusal to press the attack has more than a little to do with that last part. After taking a few lumps, Chen remembers it's not just his dignity at stake, but Mitsuko's as well, and begins round 2 with a grim resolve. And boy do the turns table quickly. Chen's comparatively compact and unfancy style, focused on footwork and quick jabs, utterly shuts down any of Ting An's efforts to set the pace, leaving him pretty clearly outclassed, though, in fairness, he does manage to claim the momentum momentarily when he moves to attacking low, though in the end all that does is give Chen the chance to do this absolutely friggin' rad Eddie Gordo kick to take it back. Oh, you can leave. This is going to keep me entertained for at least another 5 minutes. Despite winning the match that he didn't even want in the first place, Chen still decides to leave with Mitsuko. Unfortunately, it turns out most places share the school's stance on Japanese guests, and they're forced to take up residence in this bum-ass shack on the hill near Master's grave, which, yeah, kind of a raw deal, but hey, at least they have each other, though Mitsuko can tell how much his exile from the school has hurt him. For what it's worth, they're a fairly cute couple, low-key and somewhat stoic boy juxtaposed against optimistic and outgoing girl. It's about as standard a dynamic as you can get, but hey, it works for a reason. Oh yeah, I guess I have to talk about this. In one of the movie's more half-baked plot threads, it's revealed that despite his protests, Uncle Gen did in fact poison the Master, with this guy as his accomplice, though in his defense, Gen was trying to help his son, who may or may not already be dead. Seeing that his regret is clearly getting to him, Sidehort here strangles him, strings him up to look like he shuffled off himself, and plants a bunch of evidence pointing to him as the sole traitor. Wow, how exciting. I can't wait until this plot point comes roaring back later in the movie. While all that was happening, Smug-Face McAssmaster from the Black Dragon Dojo shows up again, this time to present them with an official challenge. Turns out the clan's #1 fighter, who happens to be our old friend Funakoshi-san from the opening scene, wants a duel with the school's headmaster. With Chen still excommunicated and Ting En in the wind, Ting En bolted after he lost, by the way, things are looking pretty dire until, of all people, the lady from the brothel, Xiao Hong, shows up, asking for Uncle Nong by name and saying she knows where Ting En is. We're then treated to just the absolute most teeth-grindingly uncomfortable carriage ride you ever did see. Special mention goes to this moment here where, in her zeal, Hong puts her hands on Nong and, sweet Jesus, that face could strip paint from concrete. Look, I come from a Jewish family, go figure, and we invented the concept of disapproval and the judgmental glare. That look could make that whole carriage turn back into a pumpkin just so that it could make better life choices the second time around. They managed to retrieve Ting En and shake him out of his despair, agreeing to come back to the school and defend its honor. Also, Nong, of all people, calls him out on just leaving Xiao Hong to languish here despite her clear love and devotion to him, and decides that they're going to basically buy out her contract from the madam, freeing her from the life so she can come home with them. It's actually good to give someone else besides the main trio of characters an actual character arc, and Nong has had kind of a streak of disapproval and judgment throughout the movie, so him actually taking the time to care about the fate of a woman of ill repute is a big step for him. You know, judging someone on the contents of their character as opposed to their job. Look, it was the 30s, we'll take what we can get. Actually, you know, maybe this could be a new leaf for him in regards to Chen and Mitsuko also. Maybe now that he's changed his mind about the prostitute, he'll be more amenable to letting them... Well, fuck me, I guess. We finally returned to the Zhen house, and I think I've been living in the projects too long because I could swear that hut's actually looking kinda homey now. And coming in through the dust and wind, Funakoshi arrives, and with him, the other best fight in the movie. The two engage in pre-fight banter that's half philosophy, half shit talk, including light criticism of Chen's somewhat straightforward perception of fighting and its purpose. By the time the stretching starts, it's clear that Funakoshi is screwing with him, just a little. Also, there's this exchange. He's so goddamn cool! Funakoshi quite literally launches himself at Chen, and the game is on. I am not a practitioner of any martial arts, of course, but I really appreciate how distinct Funakoshi's highly refined karate is from how anyone else in the movie fights. The movement between chops, thrusts, and powerful kicks with the occasional throw tossed in allows him to shut down a lot of Chen's usual mobility. This is a much more even match than we've seen, and Kurata, who was almost 50 at the time, looks every bit a match for his much younger foe, the occasional stunt double for more acrobatic moments aside, of course. Just because you're a great fighter doesn't mean you're a great tumbler. After multiple rounds of fighting, including a very well staged and very tense section where the now blindfolded fighters, it was windy you see, try to outmaneuver each other, the two ending up in mutual submission holds, with Funakoshi's far more advantageous position making it clear who would win should they continue. Luckily, having gotten whatever it was he wanted out of the fight, Funakoshi decides to end it right then and there. Chen, for his part, is in awe that an older man can still be such a powerful fighter, which from anyone else would sound super backhanded, but we'll take it in earnest. Funakoshi points out that while Chen is good, excellent in fact, his focus on maximizing his hitting power over all else leaves him unable to adapt against an opponent of equal or greater skill. We also more overtly hit on the thematic core that will lead us into the finale. When Chen argues that the point of fighting is to conquer your opponent, Funakoshi simply says that if you want that and only that, then just get a gun, and that the actual point of the martial arts is to maximize your spirit. When Chen reminds him that they technically didn't finish their fight, Funakoshi reminds him that only animals fight. They had a match, and he's decided to call it a draw. He also leaves him with a warning about the army's killing machine, Go Fujita. Sometime later, Ting En of all people arrives at the shack, presumably to bury the hatchet with his old friend. Unfortunately, only Mitsuko is there, leading to yet another dramatically uncomfortable scene considering the last time these two saw each other, he was kicking her out of his house over her race. Chen eventually arrives and the two catch up, with Ting En even saying the two should come back with him since they've been so accepting of Xiao Hong, surely things will be different this time with Mitsuko. Chen declines, knowing they'd likely still not accept it, and that he doesn't want to make things difficult again, troubling and eavesdropping Mitsuko, who, in the aftermath of this scene, ends up leaving the country and the movie, so as to spare Chen having to constantly choose between his lives. I actually like the energy in this scene. Look, the acting in this movie isn't exactly subtle, but Jin Soo-ho and Jet Li do a really credible job of giving it this kind of siblings trying to catch up with each other after a big fight kind of feel. All the way down to Ting En excitedly showing his bro the cool shit he's learned while they were fighting and not talking. Looks like Ting En has had some character growth of his own, having decided to teach this style, which has typically only been passed down through the family, to everyone at the dojo, prioritizing the survival of the art over its sanctity. I know it seems like there's a lot of sudden on-set philosophizing in this last, fifth of the movie, but it has been sprinkled in little bits throughout the rest of the film, with characters frequently pondering what the exact use and purpose of the martial arts is in a time of such profound crisis for the country and its people. Some, like those at the school, see it as the tool of the heroes who fight back against oppression, like Chen was being heralded as for a bit there. We've already talked about it as a method of self-actualization, and opposite that, we have someone like Fujita, for whom strength is a tool of dominance, used to enforce the will of those above on those below. Speaking of Fujita, he's informed that Funakoshi, who has been shown to have very little respect for Fujita or the military at large, has decided to head back to Japan ahead of the big duel, though unfortunately the general decides he'll just fight Ting En himself. And so the chosen day arrives at last, and Chen, his path now set with the departure of Mitsuko, arrives to support his bro to the near tearful joy of Uncle Nong. The two arrive at the dojo, and the general, who, by the way, we had just seen in a ludicrously over-the-top training montage made to make him seem like some sort of golem, sits in meditation. Before the fight can even start, though, he calls in the traitor student, tells them, yeah, this is the guy who screwed over your master dad, and just shoots him in the head. No drama, no confrontation, no argument with the boys, just boom, dead. Wow. I'm glad we dedicated time to that story. I don't know how the movie would have survived without it. Anyway, the general stands at the ready. And now the final battle can begin. Bless his heart, Ting En tries. He really does. He throws everything at him, but the general is comedically sturdy, tanking every hit and even throwing himself into some of them. They really let him build some aura here. The fitted uniform and high boots make him look even taller than he really is, really allowing him to loom over the two and making him feel even more like some unbeatable colossus. Credit to Ting En, he refuses to stay down and tries every conceivable angle of attack, but eventually he just can't do it anymore. Luckily, in a turn of events anyone with even a lick of cinematic foresight could predict, Chen steps in and picks up where his brother left off. And now the true climax begins. Chen Zhen, humble, hard-working, decent young hero of the Jingwu school, versus the monster of the invading army, the living embodiment of the inhumanity and cruelty of the occupying forces, of the might-makes-right sadism who see the martial arts as something to wield against others instead of for yourself. And frankly, he doesn't seem to be doing all that much better than the fallen Ting En, but maybe, upon reflection, brute force might not be the best way to go here. Or maybe it is, I ain't telling you. Look, you know the rules by now, and if you don't, well, I never spoil the last fight of a movie because I want to leave you something to enjoy, something to look forward to when, hopefully, if I've done my job with this video, you seek it out to watch for yourself. I've spent so many words in this review trying to express to you just how great everything is about this movie that I'm kind of dry of things to say in this little denouement here. This is a triple S martial arts flick. It's top shelf, top of the line. The action, the acting, the production value, all of it is incredible. It's the kind of movie that you show your friend who's only been exposed to, Steven Seagal shit, or the edit-heavy vomit fests of modern American action movies. It's something you show that guy to sort of gate him into the really cool shit afterward. Watch it on DVD, watch it on Blu-ray, or 4K, watch it on bootleg VHS. Whatever you gotta do, just watch it. And thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you all next time.